What's up, guys? What is up? What is up? Checking the time here. So, welcome to the January 2022 YouTube live show. Hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you guys can hear me. We typically like to start these things just a little bit early, just so we can kind of make sure that there's no technical difficulties or anything like that. So in chat, if you could please let me know if I sound okay. I'm just getting my desktop here situated. Looks like there's a few people in chat already, so hi guys. Yeah, this morning was pretty nice and chilly. We've been hit with like a lot of snow lately, and so I have this new tractor, and the very first time that I really used it in earnest, there was about 12 inches of snow on the ground. And for me to be able to get my staff, up the driveway and into their parking spots, I've got to clear all this snow off. And here I am with like this new tractor, don't really know what I'm doing, and there's literally like 12 to 14 inches everywhere. So that was definitely a bit of an adventure. And since then, I've had to clear off snow quite a lot. It's been just dumping snow on us. But the real story lately is the insane freezing cold. So this morning when I woke up, it was -9 Fahrenheit outside. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And in years past, that kind of like low temperature would actually worry me quite a lot. But I guess it kind of like shows just how far we've come, because on a super freezing cold day like that, the temperatures out in the greenhouse water, they do dip, but it dips down to like 74 or 75. And our target is 77. That's pretty remarkable considering just how cold everything is. So in that sense, I guess it's quite positive. But anyway, hope you guys are doing okay, staying warm. So I suppose we should do a quick thank you session with, I just went out of focus. With the Patreon folks and the YouTube channel members. So real quick, so thank you very much to Bill Russell, Brandy Camp, Christopher Frame, Harkins Aquatics, Jeremy Altman, Kent Scipione. I think I might have like butchered Kent's name on the last show, so I apologize for that, Kent. I still might be butchering it, so we'll see. Elaine Martinosi, Alan Jackson, I was about to say Elaine Jackson, Chuck Admire, Don Bowman, Ernie Wallace, Greg Zimmerman, Jordan Marty, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson, Lisa Clow, Lori Ward, Michael Shelley, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Santa Nomine, Scotty D, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, quite a few people, it's awesome, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, Trevor Joseph Overbeck. And then on the YouTube side, we have Keith Holland, Jacob Reikerson, Justin Harden, Jeremy Place, 328 Reef, and 2 Please Coral Reefs. So thank you guys so much for your contributions. That helps me keep the lights on here. Alrighty. So I see some of you guys in chat. Yeah, Keith Holland, who I just shouted out, he's there. We've got some folks. Yeah, usually how this goes, people just can kind of ask questions as we go. Shortly, in about 5 minutes or so, we will start up the actual sales portion of the show. If you're curious as to how that works, you can go to titlegardens.com/live. That is in the description below. And there's like an FAQ that kind of goes over all that. But to sum things up, at titlegardens.com/live, pretty much all of the corals are just individual items, thumbnailed, and you can just toss it into your shopping cart just like any other item on the website. And when it comes time to check out, in order to actually get the coral, you have to fully check out. So I would not recommend you stuffing your shopping cart and then in 2 hours trying to check out, because there's a really good chance a lot of that stuff would have sold already. So it's a good practice to try to check out more frequently and to avoid the shipping fees multiple times. You can check out, and for the shipping method, just select adding to an existing order. That way you'll only pay shipping once. Or in many cases, not pay shipping at all, because shipping over $250 is free. Otherwise, it's a flat rate, $29.99. Let's see, our nighttime lows, where we're at in Southern California, are dipping into the low 30s, high 20s. Don't know how you guys in the Midwest and East do it. Yeah, it's not that fun. A while ago, I pretty much decided to never let this bother me again. So I basically invested a lot of dollars into straight up Arctic gear, like the sort of stuff that people would legitimately buy to climb like Mount Everest or do an Arctic or Antarctic expedition, like that level of clothing. And honestly, I haven't been cold ever since. It turns out that there's technology that solves these problems. And yeah, so but clearing the snow in at 6 a.m. when it's like super freezing out, it's not the most fun thing. But oh my gosh, whoa! I need to like stay like just here, or else my camera just freaks out. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. Yeah, the camera's just like totally hunting for focus. It's weird. But yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I will try to like line myself up better. Yeah, this particular lens that I'm using, it's actually the macro lens that we do a lot of our coral videography with. And the problem with macro lenses, it's like they're super sharp. They're really, really, really great for the up close work. But my camera is about 15 feet away from me. And so if I'm not like in the plane of focus for it, it's gonna hunt. And that's kind of like the problem with these lenses. They don't have like the snappiest autofocus in the world. If I had like a regular zoom lens that's the same focal length, it'd be like no problem, snap, snap, snap. But when it comes to like an actual macro lens, it's like if you're off by a little bit, it wants to go through the whole range of focus. So every now and again, I might get a little blurry, especially if I like lean back or forward or something like that to like watch this, to read something close. Anyway, I'm not really the star of the show. I'm really not. Just look at the corals; they won't be blurry. Okay. So yeah, having good coat and boots for snow and some freezing temps really make a huge difference. Yeah, pretty much that. As long as you have the right gear, you're not going to be cold. Like today, even when I was like clearing my driveway off this morning, I really wasn't cold. Eventually, my legs will get cold just because there's just not a lot of circulation, and you're just sitting down for like an hour. 30 minutes to an hour in that cold, that kind of gets kind of nippy. But if you're moving around with the right gear, it's no big deal. Okay, so I have to time this little transition nicely here. Hopefully it doesn't, like usual, my broadcasting software doesn't bomb out and get all laggy once I make this switch over to the broadcast file. Lately, it's been cooperating, so I'm hopeful. But there's every now and again, it totally lags out for like the first couple of corals that we show. 8, 7, 6. All right. Perfect. Maybe. We shall see. Okay. Let's see. First question. Let's see. Dan Marklew. Any advice on how to keep Scullys? Let's see. Scullys, which are now homophilia, there's not a whole lot really to talk about there. I mean, they're going to be very middle of the road for both flow, for light. Most people keep them towards the bottom of the tank. I try to feed mine fairly often, and I think that it's probably like an underrated care tip is just how important feeding is. A lot of corals will survive just fine without feeding, but we've noticed, especially with a lot of these LPS, that they are a very different animal when you feed them properly. So as long as I guess you keep up with that, it should be doing pretty well. Let's see. Camera. There's a camera question. Aaron Bassler, what is your kit for all the amazing photos you shoot? So right now, Becca is the photographer here, and we are using a Canon 5D SR. That's a DSLR. It's an older unit, but it's arguably the best for what we really do. A lot of like the studio type shooting that we do. That definitely is an outstanding camera for that. And the lens we use is the lens that's pointed at me right now, which is a 100mm Canon macro. There's also a video where we kind of go over all of our different camera gear that we use. A lot of it's more towards videography, but I think we do talk a little bit about the stills. My neck is stiff. I've got to like look here for the screen and look at you guys for the camera. Okay. Michael Osborne. Hi, Than. Which LPS would you consider easiest to care for out of like the Platygyras, Favia, and Favites? Probably Favites. They tend to be the fastest growing. They tend to be, pretty tame as far as like the different, as far as care requirements goes, and that growth rate does kind of help with husbandry, I think, because it's like a nice feedback loop to see when stuff is growing and doing well. The stuff that's typically known as Favia in this hobby, oftentimes it grows so slowly that you don't really know how well you're doing at any given time. But yeah, I would say that Favites are pretty easy. Let's see. Courtney Koska, any plans to add more macroalgae variations to the site? Every now and again we get this question, and every now and we pretty much always say the same thing. We would love to. I think that we really don't have a great setup for it because we rely a lot on herbivores, and herbivores and macroalgae just don't mix. So what often ends up happening is some of these decorative macroalgae, unless we're able to like find a dedicated aquarium for them, they're just going to get slowly nibbled away. And I'm talking about, we even have them in baskets kind of separated out from the herbivorous fish. But the fish are smart. They'll figure out how to wrangle a little piece out of like some little crevice from that partition of the basket. And eventually they'll just be able to just grab and pull the entire bit of algae out, and so you just end up with a bunch of empty baskets after a while. But yeah, the idea is to eventually boost up our decorative macroalgae collection for sure. Just don't know when that's going to be. Let's see. Okay, catching up on chat, you guys. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else going on here. Actually, there is. So a couple of things. A long time ago, and this is almost kind of like embarrassing to talk about, but we were gifted an ozone unit from Ozotech. And I kind of warned the one of the owners, Steve, at the time. It's like, we're like really, really slow when it comes to like implementing like new things into our systems for one reason or another. And I was like, it could be a while before we actually set this thing up. And he was like, it's fine. And it's been a lot longer than it would even normally be for us, when we're taking so long to set these things. Because a couple of different things happened. The first thing is we lost the very first thing is to run ozone properly, you really should have dry air. And for a long time, we were battling some extreme humidity issues here. We were looking at something in the neighborhood of like 80% humidity on the worst days. It's bad. So we eventually got that taken care of by installing real deal commercial dehumidifiers. And now that we're in winter, those humidity levels are between like 40 to 50%. So we got that taken care of. But then you need to have like a good way to monitor and control oxidative reductive potential. That's ORP. And so generally what people do is they actually have like an ORP controller, or at least have a probe. And you want to make sure that your ORP stays like below 400, let's say. And it'd be nice to have a controller for that would then turn off the ozone system if your levels go above that. We had a unit, and for some reason or another, it stopped working or what. But it took us a while to like get another system that's able to test for ORP. So long story short, it's a long time coming, but soon, hopefully next week, we're going to try ozone on one of our systems. And I'm actually very excited about that. We even shot some additional footage to kind of like document what it looks like right now versus what it's going to look like in about a week. Because my goal with ozone is just to see how much clearer we can get the water. That's kind of like the number one goal. But there's also some side benefits to ozone, such as breaking down a lot of like the organic compounds that corals use as a method of warfare against one another. Because I've noticed it in some tanks versus others where certain corals just do so much better. And then when they get into some of our farming systems, they're still okay. But definitely room for improvement, considering I just saw this coral in another tank looking way happier. And I'm like, okay, you could say, well, put it back in the happier tank, but we need to fix them in our actual farming systems. So I'm wondering if it's just like the multitude of corals that we also have in that farming system sharing space, that if it could be some kind of chemical warfare going on, just to like axe that right away with the ozone. I'm kind of curious to see how that works out. So those are kind of some more recent developments. Let's see. Okay. So Adam is asking, can you suggest ways to keep my 2-year-old sand bed looking whiter? More sand sifters? Certain sand sifters will definitely do the job. There's no perfect sand sifter out there. For example, the one that I think would be the most effective, hands down the most effective, are diamond gobies. And they're awesome. They are super tame. They'll basically eat out of a turkey baster after a while. They're super smart as far as fish goes, because I've seen them where they like to farm microfauna for their sand by taking a whole bunch of sand and like dumping it on top of your rocks and then going back and then eating off of those dropped sand mounds. Now, the problem there is this fish is depositing sand over top of your rocks and corals. The other problem is they are elite jumpers. They love to launch themselves out of your tank. We've put egg crate tops on. They make it through that little, 1/4-inch egg crate or whatever. They're good at that. Yeah, so it's they're like the best at the job, but also not perfect. Then there's sand sifting stars, which eventually will deplete your sand bed of microfauna. They're pretty good. Um, let's see. Cucumbers are okay, but they're slower. The absolute best way is probably for you to get a plastic salad fork that's about this big, and every day give it a very light stir, and that will keep your sand white. Just good old-fashioned elbow grease. Okay. Tender dove. What's the difference between Welso and Trachy corals? Walsophilia was like an old genus that I don't even think is being used anymore. I think that they're all trachees now. But yeah, there's different species. Like usually, what's called a Welso is I think now a Tracheophilia radiata. And I think that the other traditional trachees are like Tracheophilia Jeffreyi. I think that's how it's pronounced. Not sure. Yeah, you'll notice that in this industry, that genus of corals do shift over time, and usually, like the industry is very very slow to adopt this nomenclature, and sometimes it never really does. For example, like we were just talking about Favia, for example. There's no Favia now in the entire reef aquarium industry, period. Because I think that the only real Favias there's only two species, neither of which are legally imported into this country. They're all Caribbean, and you cannot take stony corals out of the Caribbean. Similarly, Scolemia is now homophilia. There's only like a couple of varieties of real Scullys. They are also Caribbean. So the stuff that you would normally think of when you think of a Scully is actually now a homophilia. Like stuff like euphilia only describes torches. Hammers and frog spawn, things like that, are now fimbriophilia. So it takes it's a slow moving ship. So even on our website, there's situations where stuff is like improperly classified, and slowly we add the second, like the correct scientific name, and eventually we phase out the older name, things like that. For example, Acanthastria. Most Acanthastria now aren't Acanthastria at all. The only real Acanthastria that we have is an Echinata. The Lord Howensises are now Micromusa, and the Bowerbankies, what used to be Acanthastria bowerbanki, those are now Homophilia bowerbanki, stuff like that. So if you want to keep up, by the way, the surprising thing is once you look this stuff up, like a lot of this renaming, reclassification stuff, it happened 10 years ago. And it's like still like, oh, news to me. Gary Steinert, shipping? Yeah. We will be shipping probably the first 3 days of next week. That's like the best days for us. We always check the geography in other places, so we have to schedule shipping as we go. The shipping price is $29.99 flat rate, unless you go over $250, at which point it is free. US only also. I have to throw that in there. If you guys are curious about like how to go about purchasing these corals and everything like that, go to tidalgardens.com/live. There should be a description or a link in the description below, and there's like an FAQ that kind of goes over all the fine details of how to go about doing this. Any good books on identifying corals from a taxonomy perspective? Not really. So the book would probably be The Corals of the World by J.E.N. Viren, but I think that's pretty much gone all online these days. So like for taxonomy, I don't know if there's any really great hardcovers or anything like that. Felicia Fox, do you have any fox coral? Yes, we do. We didn't have it for a very, very long time. We just never bought any, or they would just never show up. And can you do a coral spotlight on it? Maybe. No promises there because I think that we only have like a couple. It would be a very, very, very boring coral to look at. I'm sorry, very boring video to look at because I really can't show you a whole lot other than like a couple of frags. Okay, Luke Doolittle. I'm thinking about getting a bubble coral or two for my LPS and softy tank. Do you have any care tips or recommendations? We did a video on it, but basically you're talking about like lower flow. Light doesn't really matter, low to medium, and then again, with any kind of like LPS like that, they do like to be fed. Let's see. Okay, hello from Denmark. Does PAR decrease linearly with intensity of LED? Same depth if 100% intensity goes through. No, completely different. No, because like all the fixtures are all different. So, for example, we've got some Orphix downstairs. Uh, I mean, maybe I'm just misreading your question, but no, it's very fixture dependent. So we have some fixtures downstairs that if we put it up to 100% intensity, the PAR is going to be like 2000 or something like that. It's like a really, really, really powerful light. Versus if you just have some less expensive, I guess like beginner kit level fixture, it's not going to be hardly anything at 100%. So it all depends. You're better off just actually getting a PAR meter and looking to see what you're getting. For example, we even fixtures that look fairly similar, like we got a Vipar Spectra off of Amazon. It's like a nicer Chinese black box light, and that puts out way more PAR than a similarly sized and shaped light from like Ecotech or something. And we have tons of Ecotech here, but like that Vipar Spectra, we can't run that at 100%. It's so bright. It's like double the light intensity. So then you have to kind of ask yourself, like, do I need to run it at anything close to 100%? Because like it seems like 20% would do just fine. Hopefully that answered your question. I'm not really sure. S2 minute. How's the Eptasia problem going, Van? It is what it is. The biggest problem. So, in theory, Eptasia is super easy to solve. You put in a copper band, Eptasia problem's gone. The problem is getting a copper band. Like I can't do it. It's so difficult to get a copper band. Ignoring the fact that they're like all $100 or more. It's hard to find one that's not going to instantly die in your aquarium, because a lot of times they're not eating well, and you couple that with any kind of aggression that might be going on in your tank. If you have like 3 tangs in your tank already, that copper band that you put in there might never eat. And if it came with some kind of disease, because you really can't quarantine a copper band very effectively, that could be bad, because now this dying copper band might kill off all your other fish by way of disease. So yeah, it sucks. That's my chosen eradication method for Eptasia is clearly copper bands. We've also gone with some peppermint shrimp, and peppermint shrimp are hit or miss as far as killing Eptasia, and they're also kind of hit or miss as to whether or not they're going to kill some large polyp stony corals as well. Not the greatest. You know what? I should make a video all about how to deal with Eptasia, because it's something that if you're in this hobby for any length of time, you're gonna get it. Like, I always kind of get a chuckle from people that insist that they are able to completely eradicate Eptasia. I will bet on Eptasia 1,000 out of 1,000 times. Like whatever it is, I will always bet on Eptasia's ability to beat an Aquarist. It's not even close. Like, and especially at scale. Like if you have like a 20-gallon tank, maybe you can get on top of it. If you're talking about like a coral farm, your chances went to zero, like absolute zero. I mean, I've even seen like great coral farms where, I mean, I know that like they probably clean their glass every day. They clean like the inside of their overflow box, that sort of thing, right? And so I like look into their overflow box. Clearly somebody took a razor blade to this overflow box today. They've put in the work. And I'm staring at an adult 2-inch Eptasia. Like they are so much better at this than what people give them credit for. So the idea that like, oh, you're just gonna beat it, not happening. But like I said, my chosen method is copper bands, and they're so difficult to find right now. Like go to Live Aquaria, see if you can find one. You can't. My wholesaler might have some, but wintertime shipping, not the best. Getting them situated into my tanks, challenging, hyper expensive, like not great. Okay, I apologize. I'm way behind on comments and questions. So I will hopefully get to all these. What is your experience with OG Bounce? Good. Growth rate? Not bad. Pretty much, it is probably pretty much the same as other mushrooms. The thing though that we've noticed is that they like to be fed like some of the powdered plankton foods, and not so much mysis shrimp. We feed a lot of mysis shrimp to our LPS, but for that mushroom specifically, we're feeding a lot of what is that stuff called? It's not reefroids. It is. I am blanking on what we feed. It's one of these powdered plankton foods. It'll come to me. I'm like, my memory, not what it used to be. It'll come to me. At the weirdest time, it'll like interrupt another point I'm trying to make. Jordan M, is it fimbriophilia or fimbriophilia? I've seen both on the internet. I have no idea. I have zero idea. So, okay, by the way, seeing it on the internet, I've been doing a lot of quotes lately, air quotes lately. Seeing it on the internet, for this sort of thing, it better be a journal, okay? I'm not talking about like a blog. I'm not talking about like, oh, I saw it on a message board. No. You need to actually see it in a scientific published journal. That I would get the spelling from that. Is flower pot the same thing as Bernardipora? So Gabriel, yeah, I'd say so. I mean, they're like flower pots traditionally are Goniopora, but Bernardipora, I mean, they're like the micro Goni type thing. I think that for as far as common names go, and somebody said, I like that flower pot over there, and they're pointing at a Bernardipora, it's fine. It's like, I know what they're talking about. Tender dove, how long does it usually take to see any new growth on a fox coral and lobo coral? Those are very slow growing. Very slow growing. And in fact, those guys might be inhibited by coralline algae growing at the base. So that's one of those things where sometimes really insane hobbyists will go through and scrape just the coralline off of the base of that coral, and then allow that LPS to calcify more. I don't really recommend that. I don't know if it's really necessary, but it's very slow, to answer your question. Nature bats last. I'm going to set up 2 small LPS tanks side by side, an 11-gallon cube, and a standard 10. Could one light two tanks effectively with this? Could I light two tanks effectively with a single light? Yeah, I mean, it depends on the single light, right? If you have like a 48-inch T5, sure, it's not going to care. I guess it all just depends on the light. If it's like a little tiny spotlight, not so much. Let's see. Emile Nguyen. Any issues gluing high-end Zoafrag plug onto Rockwork? Not really. If you have a plug, usually what you can do is just like wedge it into like the piece of rock, and then eventually the Zoas will spread off of it. If you wanted to glue it down, you could probably use some of the putty cement. That usually works pretty well. If it's a tiny frag, I would worry more about your fish, like tangs and fox faces eating it. Follow-up questions. Or frag plug fragging tips. Cut them off the plug and directly glue, or keep... So what we like to do is to always have it slightly attached to something and then glue that little bit of rubble onto the new thing. Just gluing loose zoas, not so effective. It can be done, but not nearly as effective. So we're getting some folks that like had some luck with Peppermint Shrimp and Eptasia. Yeah, they've worked for us too, but like I said, it's hit or miss because we've got there's a couple tanks that we have that at this point have like really big Eptasia, and I know that if I just put in like a copper band, it would be gone overnight. But to wait for Peppermint Shrimp to be effective, I don't know. The nudibranch thing. The nudibranch thing is weird because they're really effective at eating Eptasia, sure. It's almost like they're too effective. They run out of food and then they die. And here's the thing, like we never even sold them because we can't like catch them effectively. They're nocturnal. And we would be happy to like and by the way, for like months, I think people were getting free ones that just happened to be on plugs and stuff like that. So if you happen to be a customer of ours in the past 6 months and got a whole bunch of free Bergie and nudibranchs, congratulations. They're usually like $20 a piece or something. But yeah, it's like if they were hitchhikers, good on you. But what they would do is they would reproduce like crazy and overnight eradicate all the Eptasia. I mean, we had one tank that had probably like hundreds of Eptasia, and boom, one day all gone. And then we would see the nudibranchs like searching around in the daytime for more Eptasia, and we would grab those guys up and put them into other tanks, and it was going great. But we have a lot of wrasses in our tanks, and the wrasses do other jobs, but one of the things that they like to do is that they really like to eat those nudibranchs. They don't mess with like the really, really bad nudibranchs all the time, but they will really go after the Eptasia eating nudibranchs like chicken wings. Like they just can't get enough, you know? And so there's a few tanks that we have that just have like the wrasse population is just too high, no nudibranchs to be seen. So again, going back to the ideally it'd be a copper band in that tank. Let's see, Aaron Bassler, my file fish in my hospital tank just devours any Eptasia from my display tank, moving rocks back and forth. Yeah, that can definitely work. For us though, we don't really have that luxury. We need to have something in the aquarium, so in our grow out tanks or our farming tanks, in our show tanks. Because I thought about the file fish thing, but if it's going to just be eating polyps and stuff, I can't do it. A bunch of people having good experience with Vipar spectras. You know, we literally set ours up like last week, so I don't know if... I mean, they seem nice. I mean, considering like the fact that you can buy it for like $150 on Amazon, no questions asked. Not the worst deal in the world, right? So right now we have 3 units out in the greenhouse. I'm just gonna see if, like most other devices, if the greenhouse just like eats it alive. I want to see how long it lasts. The greenhouse eventually devours everything. Having said that, usually like the radions that we have out there, they last like years, like 4 or 5 years, unless they get dripped on, which is a separate story altogether. In the future, we will combat that. Here in the San Francisco area, copper bands are always in stock, $40 to $50 at most. I have 4 copper bands, and they're great Eptasia eating warriors. Awesome. Yeah, no, they're not 40 to 50. They're not even $40 to $50 wholesale for us. Like, no. And by the way, wholesale plus shipping plus all the risks that go into wholesale, you're very lucky to, like, again, be seeing something that's like $100 and actually survives. So I would love to find like local hobbyists that are breaking down their tank that happen to have a copper band. Those things are worth their weight in gold. Conversely, it's like the worst day ever to walk into like your workplace here and be like, oh, there's a copper band that had jumped out of a tank. It's like, great, because I have no idea how I'm going to fix this. I have no idea how I'm going to replace that guy. Bamaker59, just wanted to say hello to you and everybody that works at Tidal Gardens. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's see. Good. Bergias are working out for people. Good, good. Yeah, like I said, Bergias worked out great for us. Like they're kind of like an Eptasia bomb. You put this in your tank, it nukes all the Eptasia, and then like 6 months later, maybe like the Eptasia might like come back up out of nowhere because it's in your plumbing, it's in your overflow or something like that. But they've done like a really good job. I think the nuisance stuff that's just like annoying right now are like I guess everything bothers me. This is what sucks about like owning a business in this hobby is that really your job as the business owner isn't to like enjoy anything. It's you get to stress about the hard problems that your employees can't deal with. Like you are like the last line of defense, because if it was something easy, I don't have to worry about it. Like my guys will handle it before I even have to say anything. But it's like I have to handle like the bigger problems. So yeah, it's like all I get to do is just be annoyed at stuff all day. Oh, Benepets. Okay, thank you. I knew it was gonna come up. The powdered food that we feed those mushrooms is Benepets, and luckily at least there's a mushroom on screen when I'm talking about it. But yeah, I think that the mushrooms especially enjoy eating that powdered plankton a lot more so than like the frozen stuff. Frozen food. Let me tell you a story about frozen food. It's hard to get. There was some supply chain issues that had slowed down the delivery of a lot of those shipping containers out west. It turns out that if you have a shipping container with seafood, gets stuck for a week on a boat, that seafood's not good anymore. So there was a huge like shortage of the actual seafood itself. Then it got coupled with a shortage of dry ice. That's great. So my usual place that I order bulk frozen food from, normally I could just be like, hey, I'd like to order some frozen mysis, some krill, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, krill, off the menu, can't get krill. So yeah, it'd be like, fine, you're calling on a Monday, we'll have it out to you tomorrow. It'll be delivered maybe Wednesday or Thursday. Like, great, all good. But because there's a dry ice shortage, they're like, yeah, we can send it in 3 weeks because we can only get dry ice 1 week per month, and we have to do all of our shipping then. Oh, good. And by the way, like I said, no krill on the menu. You can only have mysis. Cool. Good talk. Good talk. Uh, but actually, you know what? Now that it's like -9 degrees, maybe I can get these people just to ship it. Like, don't even worry about the dry ice. It's all good. I've also noticed that some places are unable to get styrofoam boxes. I was browsing Reddit, and somebody had like shown a delivery that they got from I'm not going to say who, but it was like not just like some basement dwellers frag tank. It was like a company that you might have heard of before, and they straight up in this weather shipped something that didn't have any styrofoam. It was just like that bubble and aluminum wrapped stuff and a cardboard box. Like that's it. And I'm stunned because here, we're like talking about like inch and a half thick styrofoam walls. We're talking about like double or triple heat packing. We're doing like all this stuff to try to like protect our shipments. And I can't even imagine anything surviving in this type of weather with no styrofoam. That like boggled my mind. So I'm wondering if there's like a shortage of styrofoam out there. Like our supplier is like okay-ish, but we have to like plan for delays and stuff like that. So we order like lots of boxes like well in advance, and hopefully they kind of like come in. Sometimes we have like multiple outstanding orders just in the ether, just kind of like waiting. Okay, that was a bit of an aside. So let's see. Suzanne Spade, my glitter bomb Ghani is retracted all the time. Not good. Is it too much light, too much flow? You could start with flow. A lot of Ghanis don't like tons of flow. Um, I also would worry about like bacterial infections and stuff like that with Ghanis. If that's the case, you might want to try a dip in something like maybe light iodine or that potassium salt stuff. What's that called? Reef primer. So those are probably two things that I would look at. Is it too much light? If it's too much light, it would be more pale, not so much retracted. But yeah, a Ghani that's retracted all the time, not a good look. Oh, okay. So going back to the lighting question. So for that Orphic at a 100% and you get 2000 par, will you expect 500 par at 25%? Oh, not necessarily, because now you're working, you're dealing with like beam angles and stuff like that. So the geometry of the light is going to make a big difference. Um, certain lights are going to be like more spotlighty and concentrated than others. And also, yeah, like I said, as far as like just when I say like beam angle, there's like certain lights that if you just move it like 2 inches left or right, is going to have more of an effect than actually changing the intensity. It's weird. So yeah, it really depends. Whereas like if you're talking about some of these more blanket type lights, so like a blanket type light, I would say would be like the Philips Coral Care or the Neptune light, or, like that type of like that T5-ish look. It's going to behave differently with intensity, just because of its physical geometry. So again, there's too many ways that things could be different. Like, because if you compare how that light is going to behave compared to like a Kessel, which tends to be very spotlighty, you're going to get some very different experiences. Tony Lopez, good afternoon. I need to raise my nitrates. Do you think that I should run the protein skimmer on a timer? Uh, so I know some people that do that. Um, I would be less likely to do that only because I think that like a protein skimmer that's off for any given period of time might get a little crusty, and when that dry crust is part of the equation, I think that the protein skimmer itself just works kind of poorly. Um, you might want to try just feeding just a little bit more. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you definitely have like low-ish nitrates, but nothing that's too alarming. So if you wanted to raise it, that's probably how I would go about it. Sammy D, when is Tidal Gardens open for public access? Expected date, online only feature. It is. I think I had like a clearer idea last year than I do now. I mean, it's just kind of a sloppy mess out there for that. Right now, no future plans really. I mean, hopefully soon. Hopefully eventually. I mean, I should say. I mean, yeah. I don't have any real clear cut idea on that. It's it's not just any kind of like pandemic related thing. It's also just like our workflow is just so different now than in the past. Um, we're at that point where it's like I don't even know who would be able to like take time out to help anyone to show them around. It's it's crazy busy here. I told a story earlier about like how just like setting up uh, an ozone generator, it's been like months. We still have like some other controllers and stuff like that here that we haven't set up that are just like new in box. So I mean, for example, we had purchased a GHL unit that does the calcium alkalinity stuff as well. So that's like what the KH director. We have we have an Alcatronic new in box sitting down there, and we just got a visit from a guy from Neptune Systems. So what's up, Tom? And like they gave us a demo unit of like a Trident because I've never messed with a Trident either. So like literally, I think we have like every single controller under the sun currently not plugged in. So like it just takes forever to do anything around here, and that just kind of like illustrates how ridiculously busy and just behind we are on everything. So to further kind of like derail that with also taking like in-person appointments, because at this point if we opened up, I think that every single time slot would be filled like instantly, just absolutely instantly. And like you and one might think, well, that's good, you might make some sales. We need to like do these other things. So unfortunately, the public thing right now, not looking great, but again, hopefully we'll be able to do something. And that, I guess, that piggybacks onto S2 Minutes question. Any open house plans this summer? Hopefully. Like I wish that we could kind of like get our stuff together where that would be a lot more clear, but it's looking not wonderful. Tender Dove, well, that's crazy. Those people are lucky to get the free nudie broncs. Yeah, I hope they. So this is also why I made a video. That was kind of like showing the difference between like the good nudie broncs and like the Monty eating nudie broncs. Because I know that somebody's gonna get like one of the good ones from us on something that's like this Favia, for example, Favia, quote unquote. And they're gonna like freak out. I'm like, we got a nudie bronc from Tidal Gardens. It's like, yeah. You got a good one. You got one that's like more expensive than the coral. And if you had Eptasia, in about a month, you're probably not going to have Eptasia. You're welcome, right? But I had to make a video that just like showed the difference, guys. It's like, look, if you're getting nudie broncs on LPS, it's probably not a Monty eating nudie bronc. It's probably like one of these good ones that are like proliferating in our systems, and that people are trying to buy from us, but we can't sell because we can't for sure on demand find a nice big fat one to put into a bag for you. So a whole bunch of people for months probably got free ones. And so, you know what? Hopefully, if more people did that sort of stuff, like traded these things around, Eptasia would be less of a thing. You know, just get these nudibranchs into more people's tanks. And and hopefully, like over time, like it'll swing back around to when you guys are trading amongst yourselves, there's less likelihood of you getting like a little stray Eptasia here and there. But you know, fingers crossed on that. Pay it forward. And then and somebody out there's like farming these nudibranchs. It's like, shut up, Tidal Gardens. I'm trying to make a living over here. I understand that too. We started to farm a couple nudibranchs in like a 20-gallon tank, because right now currently it is just an Eptasia tank, and we're going to put some nudibranchs in there, and so maybe in the future we can try to do that farming. We'll see. So but right now it's just like a little Eptasia thing and a couple 20s. Okay. I'm still behind on chat. I'm sorry. Hey Than, got some 24K Zoanthids. Just spectacular, bright and orange. Are they rare? You know what? When it comes to Zoas, I don't know if it's rare or not. It seems like every single Zoa these days seems unique. Like, there's like a few common Zoas that people are aware of, and then to me, every other Zoa seems to be rare. Like, I was going through, this was like a while ago, but I was going through our photography catalog, and this is like from like 10, 15 years ago at this point. And there are literally hundreds of varieties of Zoas that we've physically had here that we no longer do. And now, not only do we no longer have them, I can't find them anywhere on the internet. Not even pictures of them on the internet. So like Zoas, the amount of biodiversity in their appearance is insane. I mean, there's so many different kinds. Let's see. Have you ever propagated Scullys or Trachys? No, not really my thing. It takes way too long. Assuming that the thing survives cutting, it takes forever for them to regain shape. Not interested. I am, however, interested to see how the sexual reproduction stuff goes. But from what I understand, that takes a hot minute too. Like I think that they're showing like, oh, this is like our brood stock after a year, and it's like that big. It's like, okay, so it might be like 5 years before you can sell one. That's not good. Okay, so far, are there any recommendations that you have for the Vipar Spectral Light, like mounting, height, or zero? Dude, we just hooked them up. Like, I'm not recommending them at all. I'm just saying it was like a cheap light that other people seem to like, and we just put them up to replace a T5 fixture in the greenhouse that just died after all these years. So it is, I have no idea. It could be total garbage. Like, because, by the way, other people are going to have a very different experience than we are, because our application is insane. Like, in your application, you're probably not worried about like water dripping down on your lights. It happens over here. Oh, let's see. So Peter T said Ryan Cunningham, who runs Cunningham's Reef Frags, Scullys, Acanthos, Endophilia. So that's the person to ask for that. But no, I do not have any appetite to do such here. Todd Luther, any thoughts on the best way in raising pH? The best way is not going to make you happy, but the best way is to increase the air exchange in your house. Like especially right now in the wintertime, the problem that you're running into is the CO2 buildup. And that is when you mix CO2 with water, you get carbonic acid, and that depresses your pH. So here in the greenhouse especially, we have the benefit of it basically being an outdoor structure. So our pH is like rock solid 8.3. In this new building, which is not exactly open air, we have 4 air exchangers constantly running. So again, rock solid 8.3. But if your tank is in a very closed up house in a basement, you might have like carbon dioxide issues. So unfortunately, that is going to be your best bet. Alternatives are going to be things like, assuming it doesn't throw off your chemistry too much, things like kalkwasser is very high in pH, and you run that essentially as your top off water. That can help things, but that's also like how people manage calcium and alkalinity. There might be a buffer solution out there, but that's probably what you're gonna have to deal with if you want to deal with it like directly chemically. But your real root problem is probably lack of air exchange in the house. Yeah, I got macroalgae shipped in a foil bag with just a USPS flat rate box. Woof. Hopefully it didn't freeze too bad. Macroalgae might be able to survive, but boy, that's still rough. Okay, Alex Silueski. Tidal Gardens. Would I need to supplement trace elements if I do a 10% water change a week? I use Instant Ocean and have a mixed reef. Supplementing trace elements is one of those things where like it could help. It really depends on your tank and what the uptake is. Um, I still go with the, if you want to be adding stuff, make sure you're testing for it first. So either send out regularly for ICP analysis. There's actually another service coming out that actually does mass spec, which is like significantly better than ICP. Uh, that's an option. You might like spot check certain elements that you're interested in, but just like blindly dosing trace elements, I probably would not do. Art of War had a package arrive with 2 Bounty paper towels and a cracker box, and this is a Ballast Angel in a bag with no air I'd purchase. That's horrific. Okay. Are sea fans a soft coral and are they easy to keep? Are they a soft coral? That's a good question. So soft corals, their official definition is that their polyp like lobes, I guess, are in multiples of 8, because it's not necessarily that they're soft, because there's some soft corals that actually are kind of hard. But it's and stony corals have like segments in multiples of 6. So that's like hexacorelia versus octocorelia. Uh, I I honestly forget what a gorgonian is, whether it's 6 or 8. Somebody in chat can look that up. But you can treat it basically like a soft coral. I mean, gorgonians are kind of their own thing, because the thing that differentiates gorgonians is that they produce a kind of a special protein called gorgonin. And so the gorgonians feel different than every other coral. So that's just kind of their thing. But as far as like husbandry goes, yeah, you could probably treat it like a soft coral. The photosynthetic ones from the Caribbean are going to be the easiest ones to care for. The non-photosynthetic varieties are going to be a lot more challenging. So if it's like super brightly colored, chances are it's going to be non-photosynthetic. If it's like purple or mauve or pink, that's probably going to be a photosynthetic variety. Any thoughts on Fimbriophilia, cristata, grape coral? I didn't know about these until recently. Picked up some of my LFS. I think they're quite pretty. Why aren't they more popular? You know, the popularity of corals is going to like wax and wane. For a long time, we're looking at some chalices here. chalices were the hottest thing. A few months before they became the hottest thing, you couldn't give them away. Certain chalices now are very, very inexpensive. Right now, like we're looking at some Discosoma, there was a time where Discosoma was $2 to $10. Okay, now you're looking at 40 something dollars for like kind of a regular thing, right? For like the super high end ones, $1,000 for Discosoma. Yeah, so like the popularity of corals, it'll just it'll change over time. Expect it. Like right now, we're seeing a resurgence of like some high end acros. We're seeing a resurgence, like I said, of different types of mushrooms. But I think that like the hot in thing right now is Goniopora. There's a lot of really cool Gonis that are selling for a ton of money, things like that. Like right now, I haven't done this search in advance, but I bet you if you are looking for an Amazeballs Goniopora, it is not available for sale online anywhere. Let me just take a quick look. I will do this search for you in real time here. Amazeballs Goniopora. Okay, so this guy here, $550 out of stock. This guy here, normally $500, $399 on sale, out of stock. Unique corals. So this is corals.com, $600 out of stock. TCK out of stock. So, Ed, the first one on the organic of Google, Tidal Gardens, $595 out of stock. If we put one up for sale, it would sell within 20 minutes. Like there's just always going to be some super hot corals, and I would argue that like the super high end Gonis, you can find buyers for those anytime you want. So anyway, that was a little bit of an aside as to like why things are popular or not. They just are. Jim Brown said you could put us to work. Yeah, it's like the whole world right now is having like a problem with finding employees. Not me, because it's kind of a cushy job here. Sammy D had Monty eating nudies once, still have PTSD from that experience. Monty eating nudies are, I think, a top 2 pest for me, like as far as like difficulty to deal with. They're very, 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 very persistent. The other one that's really bad is Acropora eating flatworms. No fun. I can say like for sure in our new building here, our acros do not have the flatworms because we successfully quarantine them. Like we don't mess around with that. That is no fun. Tech Your Talk. What is up, Siggy? Sorry I'm late. How's it going? We need to hang out again. It's like so Tech Your Talk and we get to hang out like once every 6 months or something like that. We talk all the time, and the funny thing is we're only like 45 minutes away from each other. He's up in Cleveland and I'm here in Akron, and it's like, yeah, we should totally hang out. And it's like, yeah, we totally should, and it'll be like no joke next year. So we need to hang out again, Siggy. So what I'm saying. Taylor Jones, hey Than, never made it to a live before. I've been watching your videos for a few years. I love your content and your commitment to pushing the boundaries of the craft. Oh, thank you, Taylor. Welcome. Oh, by the way, going back to Tech Your Talk, I told you guys about this guy. I said he's gonna be a big deal, so like check him out. And sure enough, I think he's probably like close to like 500,000 subscribers, and I swear he's gonna get to 1 million subscribers before I get to 100,000. All I want is my stupid plaque and check mark. Thanks. So guys in chat, could you please subscribe? I just want my stupid $10 plaque. Thanks. I want my 100K. So Great Scott the Gamer. I'm about to set up a new system with my first sump. What are your must-haves for a sump underneath a 90? Equipment, media chambers, etc. I'm all about simplicity, really. The only thing that I would like say has to go down there, uh, I would say three things, three likes to have, right? I'd like a protein skimmer. I would like a heater, and I would like a filter sock of some kind. And whether you use the filter sock or not, that's up to you. But to be able to slide in some filter socks every now and again, let's say you're stirring up your main display and you just want to like, just get all that stuff out of your tank. It is nice to just like have a filter sock system in there. You can just put it all in, polish up the water, and if you don't like it, take it out. Doesn't hurt anything. Ozman, do you think a millipore will do good at 200 par? Might. I mean, it'll be fine, but I think that when you're a lot of keeping acropora is optimization, and like when you see some of these insane millipora, these insane acropora tenuises and stuff like that, um, that is where people are chasing after that diminishing return, that last 1 to 5%, right? Like you're like 99% of the way there. That last 1% for peak growth and coloration is gonna cost you. So yeah, it's one of those things. 200 par, it'll probably be fine. Um, but then again, depending on the type of millie, you might not be getting that oh my gosh, Instagram crazy looking thing. You might, it might not. Like I said, it just depends on the variety. Alan says, does anyone sell blue coral? I'm sure there's blue coral here and there. Are you talking about like Blue Ridge coral? We have it, but I don't even know why we don't sell it. Or maybe we do. I don't know. It typically gets neglected here. Gonia or Gorgonians are Octocoralia. Okay, there you go. Somebody did look at it. Look it up. Orion C. Any advice on how to promote acan growth? I have a piece that is stuck to a small frag plug and I glue it to a larger disc. All right. So, yes, you feed the heck out of it. Feed it 3 days a week with mysis. It will grow. Brymac 1. I hate the feel of Gorgonians. Some people are allergic to them. There's that too. Okay, Brandon Childress. The LFS I work for is putting on a huge trade show here in Knoxville. What would it take to get you to put Tidal Garden's booth up? There is no amount of money, unfortunately. Like Tidal Garden, I am super retired from that scene. I mean, super retired. I think that the last one we went to was like in 2014, and I pretty much said, I'm retired from this, and I meant it, because there's like a show going on like 40 minutes from my house, and somebody was like, "You're not even gonna go to that show?" I'm like, "No." Like, oh, yeah, then you are retired. It is not something we do. However, having said that, never say never, right? I'm saying no for now, but so let's be clear about that. I'm definitely saying no for now, but I am gonna be getting a truck. And I like sometimes daydream about like the ideal traveling trailer setup to do like a show like that, right? Where like let's just say like a Reefapalooza, or like if I wanted to just to do one of these one of these booth type things where I could actually have like a few employees for the weekend, blah 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 blah. Anybody that wants to help out, gets free frag, whatever. Like make it work labor wise. But I was just thinking like it'd be cool, just brainstorming how cool it would be to, like, from scratch build out like the ideal traveling trailer to the point where I can just roll my tanks out, lift gate them down to the ground, roll it right into the venue. The setup is done. And when I'm ready to pack up, just seal the lid up, roll that sucker right back onto the trailer, and get out of there. Like that's my ideal situation of like just the traveling show thing. Um, I don't even know how much those like would it make sense financially to do anything like that. I don't really know. Um, Travel right now, I don't really go anywhere. Period. I'm such a homebody now, but yeah, it is something I think about. So my other YouTube buddy, Jayo Nation, Matt from Jayo Nation. So he is doing like the cycling around the world thing, but because of like COVID, you can't exactly cross country bounds very easily. So he's actually in the United States and he's doing like the van life thing. And I mean, a lot of his subscribers are like, we subscribe to you for your travels and your biking, and you're just another van lifer now. But he's a travel channel. He's doing what he can. But he is like kitting out this. It's a Sprinter. So is that Ford or Mercedes or who does Sprinter, guys? Dodge Sprinter. But he is kitting it out with all these modifications, and that looks like a lot, but it also looks like a lot of fun. So he's kind of like having this kind of this van life experience, and that also just kind of has my creative juices going about a traveling setup one day. But that was just something I was just thinking about. I've never driven a truck with a trailer, so that might be one of those things where like it sounds like fun on paper, like a pet raven, right? But no, it turns out that driving a truck with a trailer sucks. So who knows? I have no experience with it. Peter T. Than, do you find mariculture, or I'm assuming that says mariculture, acros much more harder to keep? I bought 3 acros at the same time: Oregon Tour, PC Rainbow, and some Millipora. They all got sick. Others are doing great. Maricultured. Uh, Acros can be weird. I mean, they're so sensitive. Like, if something's bothering them, they'll just go right away. Um, do mariculture do worse necessarily? I don't really know. To me, like mariculture is no different than wild. I mean, they're grown out in the ocean. You're taking them from the ocean and putting them into a tank. They're not going to love that, and you're shipping them like all over the world. That's not going to go great. Now, if you're talking about like something from like someone else's home aquarium, and you're either getting it overnight or you're getting it like a 20-minute drive away, it's going to go a lot better for you. Like a truly like farmed aquacultured coral stateside versus anything shipped in overseas, you're going to see a big difference on the domestic stuff. Hen Roth, are the acro flatworms similar with the LPS flatworms? No, different. There's like millions of different types of flatworms. The LPS flatworms are going to be a lot easier to take care of than the acro ones, just in my experience. Like the LPS flatworms, I'm like barely concerned about them. Because the other thing is like most of the LPS flatworms, as annoying as they might be, they're just annoying. Like they're not going to kill the coral. Acro flatworms, they're going to kill the acro. And they're like Lazarus. They just rise again. It's crazy. Colin T, do you ship to the UK? No, we don't. We only ship to the US. Let's see. Wilmar, can Galaxy Coral lose heads and regrow again? Um, They can definitely regrow, like grow more heads. I don't know if like if there's a dead head that it'll come back or not. I don't think so. One Golf Jones. How do we make a purchase from you? You can go to titlegardens.com/live, and it is you can see all of these corals that we're showing as thumbnails, and you can just put them into your shopping cart and check out like a regular item on the website. And can I order later after watching the replay? Unfortunately, I don't have time to watch right now. No big deal. The only thing is some of the more competitive stuff might be gone by the time that you get around to it, understandably so. But a lot of them you see over ran out. Okay, nope, I'm all blurry now. The multiple units available at this price. Certain things, if somebody buys like 4 of the 5, it'll still be there for you to purchase, right? This live show we typically take down after, I don't know, like midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. So you still have plenty of time to look at what we have remaining and check out. But I just know that there's like some like hot items that those are going to be sold like right away. But if you're just looking for the stuff that we have more of, yeah, you'll be fine. Hen Roth, will Torch grow better feeding them shrimps? Mines aren't splitting. Maybe. You have to kind of find what they like to eat, because a lot of those, like the hammers, torches, frog spawn, they are tougher to feed than you might think. They're a little bit more challenging. They're like on the scale of of corals that just simply don't eat versus like a Duncan that would eat like fried chicken. Hammer torches, frog spawn, they don't have like the most active appetite. They're very finicky. Let's see. Mr. Berlin method. Would you inject Eptasia with citric acid or vinegar to kill them? Is that a bad idea? My filefish is gone off them for 5 years. Oh, weird. So my thing, I don't like to do the injection stuff. I don't like to do any of that, because I get this feeling that unless you annihilate like every molecule of that darn thing, it's going to come back, and it might come back worse. So I like to have like active predation being my number one thing. If you've got like a tiny tank where you can just like dote on every little thing, sure. But I think that once you get to like 100 gallons or more, I think it is well out of your hands to do stuff like this effectively. So if you're asking like how I would approach it, not that. So Sigitas A, I've killed Eptasia with the injection method. Good for you. But like I said, I think that I don't know if most people will be able to like have the diligence to really follow through with it. I think it's pretty challenging. On a kind of a separate note, there is a product that recently hit the market. It's like a UV laser beam of some sort, made by the guys over at the UK. And I haven't messed with that, but I guess that's a thing where you zap it with like this UV laser, and it basically breaks apart their DNA so they can't reproduce. I don't know if it works or not, but at some point somebody will do a device review. Let me know how that goes. Ryan C, what are your thoughts about every other coral these days having the word rainbow in it, even if there's only 2 colors? I don't care. when it comes to naming anything, I don't care. Like, well, it's funny. More than two colors, by the way. There's a lot of stuff that gets called rainbow. There's stuff that gets called like purple, and it's like not purple. I mean, names are whatever these days. Like I don't know if you can really go off of, any. It's like, I mean, is this neon green? It's green. There's stuff that's going to be greener. There's stuff that's going to be less green. Uh, but at least it's not like orange, right? I'm not saying it's orange. At least I'm saying it's green. But no, there's like certain corals that are just like, as far as like their naming stuff, it's just all over the place. So no, I'm not hung up on it. Andrew Schaefer. I have an anemone that has a wedged itself into a cave, and there's not much light. So okay, Andrew. Like, depends on what kind of anemone. I guess it's probably a bubble tip. That's not great behavior. It's really not. Um, I would probably try to like feed it and make sure it stays well fed, and eventually it might come back. But that sort of behavior is the like anemone wants to go die type behavior. I don't like to see that. Um, Also, it might be suffering from an infection. And I know some anemone people, they actually have like a tank that they'll put stuff in, and they'll do like a 10-day antibiotic treatment in like Cipro or something like that. And that does help certain things. I've never done it personally, but I would actually consider it in the future for us here. Uh, because I mean, it's kind of it's so this is kind of a more general thing, but there's certain corals that are just very, very susceptible to bacterial infection. Things like the micromusas, things like blastomusa, bubble tip anemones, hammers, torches, frog spawn, right? And I know some folks out there in the commercial scene are like, you know what? Once or twice a year, like clockwork, we want to take all of our stuff that has these susceptibility issues, and we'll do a 10-day Cipro treatment. It's kind of like a whole tank treatment. So some people do it in their whole tank, but what I would do is I would actually set up a completely separate system for it, and basically do like a 50-gallon water change per day on that. Because the thing about Cipro is it's an antibacterial. There's going to be no cycle. There's no bacteria for a cycle. So you have to kind of manage like the waste issues, uh, basically by water change at that point, right? So heavy water changes, 10-day Cipro, whether they really look like they needed it or not, and then I can't talk. Reintroduce them back into our farming setups here, because I think that like every now and again they just need it. Like just the bacterial stuff, it just happens. So we haven't done it yet, but that is something that I'm considering. So going back to my point with your anemone, sometimes anemones simply just get sick and need antibiotics. Do you have any recommendations for the Vipar Spectra so far? No, we literally just plugged it in. I have no idea. I don't think I even physically ever even touched that light yet. So no recommendations just yet. Well, maybe one recommendation. Get a par meter, know what it is you're shining onto your animals. Or borrow one. I think that BRS might have like a program or something like that where you like pay some money and you can return it or something. Tony Dempsey, hey Than, would love to have you talk at the Medina County. I really don't want to be a public speaker though. No, I appreciate the invite, but it's not something I'm looking forward to be perfectly honest. So I'll have to pass. Mr. Berlin Method. Badio, check out Telegram on YouTube. He has been playing with it as well as how to mod it. Yes, that's a good call. Jack Smith, how do you stop encrusting coral from overtaking others? Um, so I mean, it's kind of a first world problem, right? Things are going so well. How do I stop them from growing and killing each other? Ironically, that's how I started this business. It's like, yeah, things are going well. You can either trim these things back, give away the cuttings, throw the cuttings away, or start a company. And that's kind of like the way that I went with it. But yeah, it really, what it boils down to is you need to separate them. Let's see. I am Aquano. Have you tried before in your experience taking care of Indo mariculture acropora? Uh, if so, do you have any idea on how to ID them? IDing them? No, zero. Like when it comes to like coral taxonomy and stuff, I'm really not your guy. Like I try to some degree to call stuff by its right name. At the same time, we're in the business of selling coral, so I need to call this thing what you think it's called when you want to purchase it. So certain things that I know are no longer acanthastria. On the website, it still might be acanthastria because that's what somebody's looking for. The guys that are more into coral ID, I'll give you two names off the top of my head. One is Chris Meckley at ACI. He really likes to do ID stuff. And Jake Adams at Reef Builders. Those guys are really about correct ID and nomenclature and all that stuff. Not quite so much me. Mr. Berlin method, and I guess like a third one might be like the guy that actually does the collecting over there, who is like Vincent Chalet. I don't know him though. I've never met him, but he might be one of those guys. Let's see. I lost my place on the chat, so give me one sec. Chris Cunningham, can you combine plating Montipor of different colors? And if so, what is the process? Not really. Like, you can grow them close together. They'll fight. Eventually, one will win out. But there's plenty of people that kind of group them together and just kind of like let them do their thing. There's plenty of instances of that. But make no mistake, they're fighting. It's not ideal, but I mean, if that's a certain look that you're going for, yeah, I mean, like do a search online to see what it could look like. And there's some instances where it looks really cool, but I think over the long term, usually one just kills the others off. Anka Frida, love your coral photos. Thank you very much. All the credit goes to Becca. And previously, before Becca was here, Ben shot a lot. Like, I haven't shot a lot of photos in a really long time, so I can't take credit for them anymore. It's been a long time since I could take credit for a photo here. But make no mistake, I've shot my fair share. Tens and tens of thousands, many tens of thousands. So there's a saying in photography that once you take 10,000 exposures, you're now like a professional. And just yesterday, we're talking about the photography catalog that Becca has on her computer, and she shoots on average 10,000 a year. So it's like every single year that she's here, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. She's had a lot of practice. Gulf Coast Reefer is a microgani the same as Bernardipora. I hear the two things used interchangeably. There's some thought that they're actually two different things. One of them is a small polyped Goniopora, and the other one is a Bernardipora, and they are not the same. But as far as like what you're kind of calling like a common name, it kind of does blanket the same sort of thing, but there might be some differences in and amongst those. Felicia Fox, have you started the clam tank yet? Not yet, not yet. Speaking of, I really need to reach out to the guy at Clam Mania. I had met him at Reefapalooza in Chicago. And yeah, I think I'd like to try it again. Maybe I'm just a masochist. I don't know. I still have not had great luck with clams. And I say this every single time we bring up clams, but I think it's the way that we do maintenance, because we do dip corals, and perhaps even when we rinse the corals and put them back into the aquariums, there might be a little bit of that anti-pest residue in the corals, and clams are really good at taking whatever it is in the water and taking it in. And so I think that we're literally poisoning our clams. So unless we have a system that we know we are not doing dipping in, which would effectively be not a coral system here, maybe we would do clams. But there's like so much about clams that we just didn't do that well. Like, and it's just a lack of experience thing, because eventually, they send down the little things that stick, and it's like, how do I, if somebody wants to buy it, how do I get that clam off that without damaging it, and blah blah blah. It's a whole thing, right? It's a whole thing. Reefing with O. I've slowly lost every hammer and torch to some bacteria infection over the last year. That sucks. And yeah, again, it's one of those things that I think I did a video on it like maybe a year ago, where I was talking about corals that I didn't think had a lot of potential for us in terms of long-term aquaculture. And Euphilia type corals were on that list because it's one of those things where like they grow slowly, so you need to dedicate a lot of space for them to grow and grow slowly. But then one day it's like, oh, 5 heads are dead. Well, that represented about a year and a half of growth. That's not good, right? So maybe with this antibiotic treatment on a schedule, no matter what, that might help things. But it's not something that we've messed with before. And also that might be a protocol for every single time you bring in a new one. It goes through the 10-day antibiotic treatment, then it gets into your tank, and that tank on a schedule gets the 10-day bath. But like I said, to set up that type of bath, it's not that challenging really, because you don't have to cycle it, like I said, right? You don't have to be like, oh, I need to set it up and manage all these parameters. Honestly, this is how easy this would be, okay? You could do a water change on this tank from your existing tank water, right? And effectively be doing a water change on your main system by every single day. That the antibiotic tank gets a 50% water change, your main display tank gets new salt water, and you constantly keep dosing a new set of antibiotic treatment for every day for 10 days. And really all you need is like a regular old light, nothing crazy, something to move the water around, and just like multiple water changes, and you're good, really. And it's only 10 days. You don't have to get crazy. You don't have to like worry about, oh, what about algae? It's 10 days, and then it goes back into your tank. So yeah, I mean I think that could totally be done. Totally, we should do it. Why don't we do this, right? Add that to the list of stuff that just doesn't get done here. It's like, oh, add that. Okay, that's project number 150. We'll get to it when we get to it. That's how you breed antibiotic resistant stuff. If you do the antibiotics wrong, that is how you do it. But if you do it right, take your antibiotics. It's like when it says use it for 10 days, it means 10 days. It doesn't mean things look good after 7 days, I'm just going to stop. No. The cycle says 10 days. Okay, Joe Smith. Why do people show pictures of frags but nothing of the original colony showing growth patterns? There's a really good chance there's no original colony. There could just be frags. I think that's like a common misconception about what goes on at coral farms. Like they think that, oh, I have a mother colony and that we harvest every now and again. We do that like a little bit, but for years it wasn't that. It was like, no, I've got a tray that's overgrown. We're going to frag every single one of these. And so what you end up with is just different sized frags. And that's why you don't see pictures of whole colonies. Let's see. Do you sell sunburst bubble tip anemones? You know what? We had this amazing sunburst, and then I got a bacterial infection and died. I'm so upset about that because I'm looking back at some older video that we have of it. It was magnificent. Like, it was 18 inches across. It was super happy. We moved it. It did that thing where it wanted to, like, climb under a rock and die. It was really unhappy. We tried to save it. It split. That wasn't a good thing. And then it eventually succumbed to bacterial infection. And that was months before we heard of possible antibiotic treatments. Otherwise, this whole antibiotic story that I'm telling, that probably would have been done here much sooner. Let's see. Do you culture copepods or phytoplankton for your systems? No, we don't. It's something that we've always talked about. Project number 170 something at this point. But no, it's super easy to do. We've never done it. We've never allocated the space or resources for it. Space and resources really meaning not that much space because it's only like a 5-gallon jug. And resources meaning like an air pump and some lights and maybe some fertilizer. No, it's not difficult, but we haven't done it. It's certainly something that could be very cool. Yeah, but again, not something that we've experimented with. I'm sure that like once we do something like that, it'll be like, oh my gosh, why haven't we done this? Because especially for our soft corals, I bet one of the reasons why a lot of soft corals grow more slowly in a farming environment is because we're probably not feeding things like the super small copepods and phyto. Like, for instance, clove polyps here. You would think that clove polyps would be a fast-growing thing. It is just not. Simply no. Let's see. BNN0070. How long does this last? Well, I think we're going to be going to like item number about 260. And this is actually one of the longer shows that we've done. About 260. The show itself will stay active until about Wednesday, let's say. Tuesday, Wednesday, right around that time frame. So even if you didn't purchase anything today, you still have a little bit of days to shop. The more competitive stuff, that stuff is probably going to be gone by then. But if you're looking for some things that we have a lot of, you can still pick and choose for the next few days. As for shipping, this is one of those things that is going to be highly dependent on the weather that we're having here, the weather that you guys are having there, wherever you may live, and also where the UPS hub is, which is Louisville, Kentucky. So we kind of check the different geographies just to try as best we can to not have delays. It's very frustrating for everyone when there's delays. Mr. Berlin Method, have you tried honey/amino acid dips? No, I have not. It's a natural alternative to penicillin. I have not heard of that. Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, honey is like the miracle ingredient, isn't it? Like, it tastes great. You can pack your wounds with it, and it turns into meat. It's amazing stuff. As a total aside, I have thought about doing bees here. That, again, another project that's going to go nowhere, but bees and bats. I want to do it. My mom is like horrified by the idea of me putting up like a giant bat colony here, but I want a giant bat colony here. Not like a little bat house. I mean like a bat colony, like 10,000 bats. I don't know why, but I want it. Let's see. Are you guys growing out any pink millies? Yeah, I think so. We're looking for one and typically prefer to get our crows from Tidal Gardens. Oh, thank you very much, Kyle. Yeah, I think so. The person that would know is not me. So I give my guys a lot of autonomy. And when it comes to like what gets put up for what price, it is the guys. So just like from what I've seen, yes, we do have pink millies. Well, when they're going to be on the site, I am not too sure. Anka Frida, do you have any tips for me? My eyes are too bad to see the small details of corals. So I have seen basically this magnet thing, and it's like a big magnifying glass that's like on a magnet. So they just like stick this like little magnifying port onto their aquarium that you can move around, and I guess it, like depending on like how bad your eyes are, like this is one way to like to see up close and stuff. They're about like I'd say 6 to 8 inches or so. I'm not sure what retailer carries it, but look for like magnifying aquarium magnet or something. Okay, yeah, Kyle answered your question probably 10 minutes ago. Flipper sells magnifiers that magnetically mount to the glass. There you go, Flipper. Oof Pokemon. I bought a Montipor Forest Fire Monty, but the polyps are not really open, but it's still growing. Any tips? Growing. Any tips to get it to open? I heard amino acids work. I'm thinking of buying Acropower. We've recently started back into amino acids. Yeah, that works. Like we haven't used Acropower in a while. We have used Acropower in the past. I'm sure it's a fine product. But yes, feeding SPS amino acids works. So I don't know if you guys follow us on Instagram, but Luke has been just shooting some video with his phone of like of a lot of our SPS lately, and it's like I don't know, like a 30-second clip of just just top down into the water, and it is like pretty astonishing the kind of polyp extension that we're currently getting, and this is after about like a week and a half of feeding aminos. We've always known that aminos are pretty good for this sort of thing, and usually we stop out of neglect and just not filling back up and just kind of forgetting all about it and going on and doing some other stuff. But now that we're back into the flow of things, and we have like we're a lot more stable with everything, so we're I guess we're very comfy now with the effect that aminos are having. And I say aminos loosely because what we're using is aquavitro fuel, and I guess it's debatable how much amino acid's actually there, but it's working out really nicely. Super happy with it. And I remember back in the day when we used Acropower, we were happy with that too. So go crazy. And not to leave anybody else out, not sponsored by any of these people, but I know some people like Brightwell's stuff. So yeah. Moral of the story, feed your SPS, they'll love it. Dominique, hey, how do you fix the Space Invader frags? If I glue them, they die 100% of the time. I don't know, dude. We just glue them, like, and literally none of them die. Yeah, so I wonder. That might just be a technique thing. Hopefully your Space Invader is growing at the time that you're trying to do this propagation. Oftentimes I think people are too eager to cut something, and kind of like the litmus test for me to cut something is I want to make sure that it's growing first. If it's growing, then we cut it and glue it. It has a much greater chance of survival rather than something that just comes in fresh, is still acclimating to our tanks, isn't growing yet, and then we start chopping. That I don't like to see. Not that it doesn't happen, but it is so much more effective and healthier for the corals when they've shown growth. But no, you shouldn't be seeing like 100% die off just by cutting a Space Invader and gluing it down. The other thing that I would also consider when it comes to fragging is I think that some people, and you know what, we've done this forever, okay, but we've even gotten more conservative lately. I don't like to see, let's say, a chalice get cut into 30 pieces, okay? Because usually what happens is a lot of those pieces will die. I would much rather see you get one cut there, so you have a long strip, okay? You let that strip heal. Then you cut that strip, let that heal, cut it again, let that heal. Like the more you can, oh, I just went out of focus. Okay, I'm back. The more that you can minimize the area that got cut at any given time, those LPS will do a lot better. So sorry about that. I don't know how long I was out of focus. I just noticed it just the one time. Let's see. Ronald Lambertson. Click on the live sale on the site. Live sale FAQ says shipping is $39.99. Typo. Yeah, it used to be $39.99. I'll fix that after the show. It is $29.99. We reduced our shipping prices, which is bonkers insane considering that how much shipping has gone up. Like, people have no idea how much shipping is. Like, we get like a Godfather, Inner Circle type shipping rates, and let me tell you, it is way more than $39.99 to send a box anywhere. Like, we are eating a lot of the shipping rates. I haven't received any, like, you know, whining and moaning lately about shipping, but we keep it pretty simple. If you don't like the shipping rates, either spend more than $250 where it will be free, or you send me a shipping label and then you will be really crying. You guys can enjoy that $137 in shipping that it might be for a box. It'll be hilarious. Yeah, guys, next day shipping, you don't even know. Like, you thought it was bad. I think our worst shipping bill week might have been close to 5 figures for the week. Look, I don't want to hear about how my $29.99 is too expensive, y'all. Miss me with that. But like I said, no one lately has been complaining about that. But yeah, so as far as like my appetite for that conversation, it went to like negative territory this past year. I'm like, I don't even want to hear it. Honey is antibacterial. The Egyptians used honey. Yep. Bees are amazing. Yeah. And yeah, those giant bats from the Philippines. Dude, bats are awesome. Like, yes, I want some giant fruit bat that looks like a puppy with wings. Heck yeah. Let's see. I'm having trouble with the Monty cap, but the Digitata and Spungotes is fine. Might be getting too much light. That's a possibility. I mean, you really shouldn't be struggling with the Monty cap, to be perfectly honest. It's one of the easier to keep SPS out there. If something is like bothering it, my number one horror story situation is make sure that you don't have Montipor eating nudibranchs. That'll do it. Do amino acids also work for LPS? Maybe. I mean, LPS are just so much more easy to feed than SPS, but it would not surprise me if LPS also did intake of amino acids like that. Irishman, thanks for your amazing YouTube videos. You're welcome. Starting at 150, and they were a huge help determining the correct aquascaping. Awesome. Glad it was helpful. Tashfiq Manan. I have some trachees that are deflated. They used to be the most extended and the hardiest. Even my gonnies are extending now. What could it be? I'm at a loss. So if trachees are really upset, again, that could be some bacterial thing. You might just want to give it a quick dip. Maybe like an iodine dip might help. I would also try feeding. Like between those two things, that covers a lot of ground. Also make sure that there's nothing eating it. Like I think that sometimes there could be something in the tank itself that might be bothering it. Dwarf angel, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'd say that those three things are like the culprits. Star of Athenery. I'm not sure what's the most impressive, your business acumen, your knowledge of corals, or your photography skills. Dude, I don't know. So my business acumen, I would argue, a lot of people could make a serious argument that I'm not a good business person at all, because there's like certain things that like business people that care about that I don't necessarily care about. Like, so I think I talked about it in the video about when we were talking about solar here. There's a lot of stuff around here that that happens here because I literally don't care about return on investment, like at all, in any way, shape, or form. So a lot of the stuff about solar that I was talking about in that video was kind of talking about the breakdown of like, like it's an unattractive thing for the cost component of it, because for like $250,000, you could do a lot with $250,000, right? Buy coral with $250,000. That will be like a much better way to get money from that investment, right? But certain things, it's like, I don't care if it makes money or not. Sometimes I just want solar panels, that sort of thing. There's a lot of projects like that here. Like, I know that you guys, that weren't, because we're not open to the public, yada, 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 okay? If you saw the bathrooms in this place, you'd be like, what the hell is going on there? It is like, we have opulent bathrooms here. What's the return on investment on an opulent bathroom, right? So business acumen, coral knowledge, I can keep corals alive most of the time. I'll take that as a win. Keeping corals alive most of the time at scale, that's a pretty good skill. Not everyone can do that. There's a big difference between keeping coral alive on the small scale versus the big scale. Like big scale has some unique challenges. Photography skills. I'm a pretty good photographer. I won't lie. I'm pretty good. I might be rusty, but I'm good. I can talk photo with anybody, anytime. Let's see. Chris Cunningham, I have a jawbreaker mushroom. It's cranking out babies like crazy. Can you remove them from the disc and get them to reattach to rubble? How hard is it? Don't do that. It's really hard, Chris. When it comes to discosoma mushrooms like that, the number one thing is you want it to be attached down. So whatever it's on, you're better off chipping and breaking that substrate with it attached, and then re-gluing that onto a new substrate. Because once that coral, that mushroom is detached, it is the closest thing it'll ever be to dead before it actually dies. It is a major hurdle. You know why people like do the 3D printed mushroom cages and stuff like that? It's because they are notoriously bad at securing back down to substrate. Like you need to do all these things to try to get it to attach back down. So to try to remove it, nah, dude. No. Simrath Lisa Dempsey. I have to disagree with anyone who says that you're a bad business person. Being a good business doesn't mean to have the largest revenue. That's probably true. That is probably true. We do well enough to keep the lights on. And you know, here's the thing. Here's what makes it easier for me now to worry less about those sorts of issues, okay? I am an incredibly boring human being, okay? Like, I don't spend a ton of money on a lot of things anymore. But then again, I really would like a bat house. But how expensive could a bat house possibly be? It's basically a shed on stilts, right? But I guess like wood prices are high. But yeah, you're basically just talking about wood slats and a shed that you put on a 30-foot post or a couple of posts. Just like put it up there. How much could that possibly be, right? It's like that and Uber Eats. Like, I take care of my cats. I dream about bats. And that's about it. That's it. I tried to go on vacation and we canceled. So I have like I've got like infinite travel credits now because we've had to cancel like multiple trips now to Hawaii. And so like, so by July I need to like use up all these credits. And like, I don't know if I was a predator again. Yeah, so like I don't know. I don't know. Not going anywhere. Not planning on it anyways. Matt Angel, hi Tidal Gardens, Matt from Chester Grove Corals. Hello, Matt. Welcome. What's your, okay, so this is, I can't pronounce your name, I'm sorry. Z. What's your guide for amateur reefers on changing brands of salt for their salt mix? That's a good question. What you could probably do, and this is probably not even ideal, but you might want to do like a slow transition into it. So when you make up new salt, no, okay. I'm answering this in like real time as I think about it. Okay, so what I would probably do is when you make new salt water, make up your like the original salt mix that you're using. Okay, let's say you're switching from reef crystals to the Fritz stuff. Okay, so you want to do Fritz and you want to do from reef crystals to Fritz. Let's just say what I would probably do is make up 75% of your water change in your old salt. So in this case, it would be reef crystals. And then make up 25% in Fritz. And then do your water change. And slowly over the weeks, increase the percentage of the new water. So go from like 25 to 30 to 35. And eventually you'll inch up the new. I wouldn't do it where like you take this scoop of salt and then half of this scoop of salt and make that, because I think that like the chemistry reaction there might go really poorly mixing two brands and then trying to make a single mix. I would make two separate mixes of different quantities and then do the water changes that way. That's what I would do. Do I have experience doing that? No. I made that stuff up just for you. So, but that's how I would probably do it. Maybe somebody else has a better experience doing it a different way. Good. Do that. I guess how much a bat house costs depends on how much you don't like mosquitoes. So I don't like mosquitoes. That's one of my major beefs with summer. Supposedly, they eat fewer mosquitoes than you might think. I think it's almost like so I've heard this from the bat message boards that I've read. That that's a total normal statement, right? I've heard that you keep bats because you like bats. If they happen to eat mosquitoes, that's great, but the be all end all for mosquito control, probably not. It's not great. So I happen to not like mosquitoes, but I really do want bats. You know what I should do? If I ever do that, I should have like a secret Tidal Gardens like live stream camera just pointed at the bat house and just like open that one up for public and just like so you guys can just see like my 10,000 bat colony going crazy at night. Okay, we have about 30 more corals to go. Just so. Internal timer, guys. That's about 15 minutes or so. Let's see. Kyle says, yeah, Jake Adams wants to be the Bob Ross of reefing, but I'm pretty sure it's Stan. Funny you mentioned that. I saw Jake most recently in Texas for, I think it was Aquashella. It was at Aquashella. Yeah, we were both speakers there. Which is, by the way, crazy that they were able to get me as a speaker. Like when I agreed to be a speaker there, it's like I immediately was like, what the hell am I doing? I've been telling everybody for an entire year that I didn't want to be a speaker, and then I agreed to be a speaker at Aquashella. That's weird how that happened. Anyway, it was during like the Halloween season, so people were dressing up and stuff. And Jake was a pretty good Bob Ross for that event. Just gotta throw that out there. He was literally wanting to be Bob Ross. Okay, Reef Sea Forever. I had to switch from the bad turkey salt to IO. What's the bad turkey? I don't know what that is. Thankfully, I caught the issue. Is it Tropic Marine? Okay. Before I used it, thank God, I would have lost thousands. I always thought that Tropic Marine was supposed to be like super high quality. And now I'm on IO. So IO for us was like really low in calcium and alkalinity and stuff. Something to look out for. Because it's not really formulated for corals. It's basically formulated for like fish, I think. Daniel Kaminsky, would you recommend brine shrimp for fish and corals? Not really. From what I understand, brine shrimp are basically nutritionally inert. This is something that I've heard for like forever. So I would probably favor mysis, which is a lot more nutritious. Some people do, I guess, gut load brine shrimp if they're able to do it live, so they like feed them a bunch of stuff, then feed the brine shrimp. But I mean, at that point, it's like, so the brine shrimp are like a healthy food delivery system, but they in and of themselves are not healthy. Geoflux, please look into sending corals to the UK. That might be harder now than ever. The Brexit thing didn't help, and there's like supply chain stuff going on. I've got a friend in the UK, and so she's telling me all this import stuff, and I'm like, ugh, no thanks. Pop Reef, I just quit Tropic Marine salt as well. Been using it for a while, lost a few SPS, not understanding why. Yes, Tropic Marine. Okay, so Tropic Marine admitted to having issues at their turkey factory. Okay. I didn't realize that they had a turkey factory. I thought they were German. I thought it was a German thing. I've never used Tropic Marine. By the way, we use salt here out of convenience. It's not like we need to have the highest quality everything. No, we need convenience. We need steady supply, consistent price, convenient. And you know what? So far it's worked. So that's why I'm not like super evangelical when it comes to like salt. People are always like, what do you think of such and such salt? Kind of have not used it before. I'm sure it's pretty good. Most salts these days are pretty good. Algae Warrior, something about having clay in the batches somehow. One of the salts that we used to use had a clay problem, for sure. Uh, okay, that pretty much somehow caught me back up on the chat. So let me say my thank yous to the Patreon and YouTube member communities real quick. So on the Patreon side, these guys are contributing $5 or more per month. Okay, so this is Bill Russell, Brandy Camp, Christopher Frame, Harkins Aquatics, Jeremy Altman, Kent Scipione, Elaine Martinassi, Alan Jackson, Chuck Admire, Don Bowman, Ernie Wallace, Greg Zimmerman, Jordan Marty, Patreon denied. Okay, Keith Singer, Kyle Jameson, Lisa Clow, Lori Ward, Michael Shelley, Puddle Aquatics, Rebecca Hall, Reef Infidel, Sana Nomine, Scotty D, Skylar Korn, Sue Hemmons, The Classroom Reef, Thomas Tarrant, Tim Garner, Trevor Joseph Overbeck, and on the YouTube member side, Keith Holland, Jacob Rikerson, Justin Harden, Jeremy Place, 328 Reef, and 2 Please Coral Reefs. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you, thank you. Okay, close that down. Okay, I'm looking at completely replacing my rock structure in my 45. How long should I cure the new structure in a separate tank if I can fit most of the old rock in the sump? Depends. I think that we've kept rock for about a month out. Really, when we were using Marco rock, and excuse me, and it would leave like kind of like a chalky residue. So we would kind of like flush it regularly just to try to avoid that. Jeremy Davis, do you happen to know when you'll have the next live? Let me look at the calendar. We have a calendar. This isn't a public thing, so don't be like, oh, I didn't know that there was a calendar. No, it's not public. Let's see. So there is a reef to reef sale on the 12th. There is a flash sale going on, February 12th. There is a flash sale going on February 25th, 26th, 27th of February. And then I think the next YouTube show is going to be March 12th. March 12th, guys. There you go. There you go. And I think that we're skipping February because of some travel. I think I'm going to be in Orlando the third or fourth week. So that's a story there. Igor is asking, how do you fix copper problems? Okay, so I've never had a copper problem. But if you're trying to remove copper, I think that there's like some kind of chemical filter media that takes it out. So I think one thing was like I think it was called poly filter, and that removes it. I would try doing that. Yep, Reef Sea Forever to sit. Yep, poly filter. You guys are in chat are probably like, he's just reading chat and parroting what people say after the question. Yeah. Yeah, polyfill. I think it's more like a freshwater thing. Even I think that's my experience with seeing that. David Alexander, just switched from Red Sea Coral Pro to Reef Crystals. Corals are looking great. Switch because of convenience. Yeah, convenience goes a long way, guys. Okay, I had to switch from Accuracy 1 to Red Sea Blue Bucket. Switch due to supply shortage. supply shortage is some scary stuff. I mean, like, it's everything. I mean, like heat packs. There's a shortage of heat packs, and I'm always like talking to the guys about stuff like that because it's like, we have heat packs now. Should we just like preemptively order stuff? It's because if we run out, we're not shipping in the winter anymore. Like, that's a problem, right? One of our family friends has like a sushi restaurant, and this person was saying, yeah, it's really difficult to find soy sauce and the vinegar that's like mirin, I think. It's like that the rice wine vinegar that's used in sushi, and it's like, and when they can find it, it's double the price. So there's, and I told you earlier about there's like a frozen food shortage for this industry. There's a dry ice shortage, so like your delivery of the frozen foods is like sketchy. There's all these like weird supply chain things where like you just don't even think about it. Like, what do you mean there's a paper shortage? I can't get packing paper. Weird. But hopefully a lot of this stuff clears up a little bit. Hopefully, people aren't like running out of their favorite salt mix. That's not cool. Things like that. Scott Morrison, hello from Scotland. It's been a while. I had brain surgery. Oh man. Hope all is well. You too. Everything's fine here. It's cold, but hopefully your surgery went okay. D1 Shine, thank you for sharing your knowledge. How do I get rid of Eptasia? Okay, so you missed like the first hour of the show where we were talking about like Eptasia and stuff. Eptasia is of the oh my god, I'm the predator again. Sorry, when I lean back, I turn into the predator. Like, is it good? And it maintains focus here. Come on. Oh, there we go. I'm the predator, guys. No, so it's either like it's like the most persistent, annoying pest. It's not like, oh no, my whole tank is destroyed because of it. You can deal with it any number of ways. It'll probably come back. It's really good at what it does. But my favorite methods are active predation. So I really like copper band butterflies. If you're able to find nudibranchs, good. That'll also eradicate it, assuming you don't have wrasses. Sometimes hit or miss. Peppermint shrimp. Hopefully they don't go after any of your LPS. There's different ways. Like my least favorite is probably going to be like the direct injection stuff. There's a new device that zaps them with ultraviolet that prevents them from reproducing. Like, all these things are various degrees of successful, and that's why I always kind of like say, yes, Eptasia is a problem pest. No, I don't personally worry about it a lot because there's all these different ways to actually deal with it. There's certain pests out there that I don't know if you can deal with them. Like, when it comes to certain things like acropore eating flatworms, that's a problem. So anyway, that's my take on Eptasia. Long story short, if you want to like scrub all the way back to earlier in the show, you can hear like the long rant about all that. Okay. Sushi salmon is $18 a pound right now at my market. Oh, nice. Nice. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We're going down to the final last stretch here. Like I said, the show will go on for at least until about Wednesday-ish. We will reach out and figure out some kind of shipping schedule for all you guys, depending on what things are looking like here versus where you're at versus the UPS hub. Fingers crossed. Weather's gnarly right now, but we'll get there. We'll get there. It looks like we're not going to be having another YouTube show in the month of February, but we will be picking it back up on March. Thank you so much for asking. And we'll pick up then. We've got a couple of videos in the works, hopefully more soon. But nothing huge to report. Other than that, we've got a million projects that you know, when the time comes, we'll be sharing some major updates that are going on here. But that's pretty much it. And yeah, also, lastly, I usually don't ask for this sort of thing, but I would like some more subscribers because I'm so close to 100,000, and I want that stupid plaque and check mark. That's all. And all right, we are done. No more asking for stuff like that. I will see you guys all next time. Happy reefing. Take care.